Road. Today we are in Osh. Yesterday we arrived here, and this is a very important city along the Silk Road, especially for the ancient Silk Road. I will tell you now more about the historical part of about the historical, let's say, part of this town or city. Osh is today the second biggest, largest city in entire Kyrgyzstan, with about 280,000 people, inhabitants. They are ethnically mixed. They are Kyrgyz, Uzbeks, but there are also Russians and other minorities. It's a very multicultural city. What makes Osh a really important city on the Silk Road is that it is that old. It is one of the oldest cities in the entire Central Asia, with a history of about 3,000 years dating back. So this city was always a vivid and very lively place along the Silk Road. It was already here on this place where we are now standing, the so-called Suleiman Toe. It means in English Suleiman mountain. It was here the place where people believe, the Muslims believe, that the prophet Suleiman was buried here on this site. So who is Suleiman? Suleiman is the son of Israel's king, of the former Israeli king David, King Solomon. So it's really interesting how different cultures are intersecting at this place, that like a Jewish and Israeli king is buried here in Central Asia in the Fergana Valley. Osh is on the east of the Fergana Valley. Fergana Valley is like encircled by very high mountains, by the Alai Mountains and the Tian Shan Mountains and several smaller mountain groups. And it's really a paradise for agriculture, and this is why the Fergana Valley is also referred as the culturally most important region in entire Central Asia. You have to imagine that here in this area, it's a very flat valley, it's completely, really flat. That here in an area with about 100 kilometers to 300 kilometers, on such an area there live about 10 million people, and it is split and was divided through Stalin back then during Soviet times, was divided, and now the Fergana Valley is part of several different countries, of Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. And they all struggle about the very crucial resources, especially water, of course, for agriculture. So the agriculture and all the surrounding things made this area a really important one for the establishment of Central Asian culture. And here is the very most important place, let's say, in this regard. It's also referred as the center of Turkic culture in the world. And what you can see behind me is the so-called, the house of Babur. Babur was the son of Timur. Timur was, like, in the 15th century, a very important ruler in entire Central Asia. He was also important, for instance, for creating Samarkand, the very famous mosques and buildings in Bukhara. And his son Babur was born also in the Fergana Valley, in Andishan, in the Uzbek part of it. But he sat here on this point, thinking about his future. And he concluded that the Fergana Valley was too small for his big dreams of, let's say, conquering the world. And here he decided to go further on and go beyond the borders. And as an outcome of this, Babur was the founder of the Mughal Empire in India. So you see how this place was an important cultural place for several hundreds, especially even 1,000 years. And not only this, even in antiquity, Claudius Ptolemy wrote in his very famous work Geography, he wrote about the so-called Stone Tower, which is referred to as the midpoint of the ancient Silk Road. And many historians and researchers believe that Claudius Ptolemy could mean this place as like the midpoint of the Silk Road back then, if they think about the descriptions of the Stone Tower. What makes the Silk Road today important? This place. As I said, it was a very lively and vivid place already at the ancient Silk Road, but even nowadays. So the bazaar in the center of the city is one of the oldest and the biggest in entire Central Asia. It dates back 2,000 years ago. 2,000 years. It's still on the same place and the biggest open bazaar in entire Central Asia, still. But economically is Osh not very thriving because, let's say, blossoming, because it is behind it to the Kyrgyz part. There are a lot of high mountains, as I said, and the region in front of it, like the Fergana Valley, belongs to Uzbekistan and to Tajikistan, and so it's like cut off from very important trading routes. And Sebastian will tell you more about, let's say, the infrastructural part of this city and the rest of the cultural part.
So, as Sebastian said, we are standing at the Suleiman Toe, and yeah, because of this incredibly various history, this was announced in the year 2009 to the first UNESCO World Heritage of Kyrgyzstan. And yes, now let's talk about the new history. Nearly at the end of the Soviet era in Central Asia, there flamed up riots between the ethnic groups, so especially between Kyrgyz and Uzbeks. And yeah, these riots flamed up again in the year 2010. And yes, it was incredible because of these riots, up to 100,000 Uzbek refugees fled to Uzbekistan, and this is just now 9 years ago. And now in the city you can't feel this kind of like aggressive behavior. It's really a vivid, nice place to be, lively all over the city and town. It's perfect now. So for us it feels like this. And yes, but also nowadays Osh is known as a drug handling center because drugs come from Afghanistan and Tajikistan towards north, so also to Osh, and then are traded towards Kazakhstan and you can say to the north and to the west and so on, so everywhere. And yes, now I can tell you a bit of it, how we came here to this city. It was like a really hard, difficult, long ride from Naryn to Jalalabad and then here to Osh. It was really a really high mountainous streets. You can't say these were streets, it were paths with gravel, mud and so on. But there is the new north-south highway under construction at the moment, so between Naryn and Jalalabad. And it's already let's say kind of finished, so it's a perfectly asphalt paved new highway. But one really important structure is missing, and this is the tunnel through the Fergana mountains, the really high mountains we had to climb up with our Green Mamba during the night when we came here. But with this tunnel and this new highway, the time from Naryn to Jalalabad, so the traveling time or the rides, will shorten drastically. So at least a few hours less time you need from Naryn to Jalalabad. And so from Naryn to Jalalabad and then to Osh, there will be a totally new connection, you can say. And this new connection, also financed by China, will or can be a new motor for this city, for this town, to be connected to the rest of Kyrgyzstan. And yes, we hope that it will be like this.
I mean, there was of course also issues in this regard. It's a very important new linkage between via Naryn to the south to Osh, from the north, from Bishkek via Naryn to Osh. But there were already a lot of issues regarding corruption of this project. A lot of money was missing, but it's like this. We experienced the hard traveling really on our own. It was like I don't know how many hours we went. It was like
from Naryn to Osh.
We were on
10 hours.
We didn't went directly. It was like a small stopover in Tashra, but when we entered the motorway, let's say the direct way from Naryn to Jalalabad, it still took us some 6 to 7 hours to go from the half from the middle of this street to Jalalabad. So imagine this. And interestingly, as you already said, the travel duration would be at least cut half. So
yeah, we went up all the mountain range, and it took us, I don't know how long, 5 hours from the town of Aral to the top of this mountain range. And we also we tried the new highway to go the new highway, but at the construction site of the tunnel we had to stop, of course. But this was just, I don't know how long did we went, 45 minutes, half an hour so from Aral to the beginning of the tunnel to the mountains. It just took us 45 minutes, and with the other way, with the gravel path, it took us a few hours, 3, 4, 5, I don't know.
Interestingly, after the tunnel, you would have been, if the tunnel would be ready already, and you pass the tunnel through, you would be already in the Fergana Valley. So it's like really a tremendous time cut.
And the highway after the not yet finished tunnel is as well already paved. So really just the tunnels and the connecting streets to the tunnels are missing.
So it's like people have to weigh, they have to think about, okay, corruption, of course, it's a really big issue in this regard. But on the other hand, one street is better than no street in this regard. So a street is very important in this area to connect Osh to the rest of the country, to further improve the development of the entire region. There's a lot of tremendous potential, and therefore we're very looking forward to explore more of these still remote regions of the Silk Road, and are now heading to the very most remote to the remotest regions, let's say, in the entire Silk Road network, the Tajikistan, the Pamir Highway network. And it will be especially interesting for an infrastructure expert like Sebastian to experience this modern trading routes. So stay on track and see you later on the Silk Road again.